Rosicrucians, inheritors of an ancient stream of mystical wisdom, taught that human beings are not merely flesh and thought, but radiant centers of consciousness, receivers and transmitters of the subtle currents that shape reality. To them, elevating one's vibration was not a poetic metaphor, but a disciplined art. Through symbolic rituals, meditative science, and alignment with cosmic law, they sought to awaken the sleeping faculties of the soul, harmonizing them with the music of the spheres. In this work, we explore 5 Rosicrucian-inspired techniques, each a portal to heightened awareness and refined energy, revealing how they can be woven into daily life for spiritual awakening. One of the first paradoxes an initiate encounters on the Rosicrucian path is the truth that what is most sought cannot be caught by pursuit. This is an echo of the ancient backwards law. The more we grasp, the more what we desire slips from our reach. It was taught not only in the temples of Egypt and in hermetic schools, but also in the quiet symbolism of the rosy cross. The rose does not run to the seeker. The seeker becomes still until the rose blooms of its own accord. In the modern world, ambition is often glorified as relentless forward motion, hustle, grind, chase. But in the eyes of the adept, desperation is a vibration of lack, an energetic broadcast of insufficiency. Like a magnet turned the wrong way, it repels the very forces one hopes to draw in. Every frantic effort, though dressed in strategy, reinforces the subconscious script of "I do not have." The universe, ever responsive to vibration, mirrors this belief back in kind. The Rosicrucians taught that the initiate must become the thing desired before the outer world can reflect it. This is not daydreaming, but embodiment. The alchemical axiom "as above, so below, as within, so without" speaks directly to this. Outer manifestation is the condensation of inner state. Just as the surface of still water reveals a perfect reflection, so too does a still mind allow reality to mirror the perfected image held within. Splash at the surface with restlessness, and the reflection distorts. Practicing this principle requires conscious transmutation of desire into identity. Instead of projecting lack, "I need love, I need wealth, I need enlightenment," the initiate rehearses the inner feeling of already having it. Actions are taken from the frequency of fulfillment, not the fear of absence. In Rosicrucian meditation, this often involved symbolic enactments, wearing a garment or emblem representing the achieved state, walking and speaking as if the result were already attained, and entering meditative states where the senses were saturated with the imagined reality until the body's own energy field resonated with it. The non-chasing stance is not passive. It is an active cultivation of coherence, aligning thought, emotion, and physical posture into a unified broadcast. In the Rosicrucian temples, initiates were trained to recognize when their mental currents were divided, for divided currents weaken the magnetic field. Through breathing exercises, inner imagery, and the silent repetition of seed thoughts, the scattered was gathered, and the current flowed as one. This reversal of ordinary striving has a deeper esoteric reason. In the unseen world, time is not linear. To chase is to declare distance, and to declare distance is to keep the thing distant. The initiate instead moves without moving, inhabiting the end from the beginning, collapsing the space between desire and manifestation. In doing so, the outer arrangement of events begins to respond, not through force, but through the mysterious orchestration of the higher laws. The Rosicrucian motto ad sum, "I am here," captures the essence of this teaching. The thing sought is not elsewhere. The vibration of it must be here, in you, now. Only then can the universal currents, like the butterfly to the open hand, alight upon you naturally. The untrained mind hunts and exhausts itself. The trained spirit magnetizes and rests. In the end, the backwards law teaches that elevation of vibration is not about adding strain, but about removing the static of fear and need. By embodying the fulfilled state, the initiate enters into harmony with the cosmic design, and reality, no longer chased, begins to follow. In the Rosicrucian worldview, the human aura, the luminous field surrounding the body, is not a poetic image, but a functional reality. It is both a transmitter and a shield, a membrane through which life force, or spiritus, flows. Without conscious guardianship, this field leaks vitality through the countless unseen transactions of daily life. The ancients warned that spiritual exhaustion rarely comes from a single great battle. Rather, it is the cumulative drain of small, unconscious surrenders. The polite yes when the soul cries no, the habitual engagement with chaotic energies, the overextension in the name of being needed. Each of these opens a subtle breach in the aura. In Rosicrucian lodges, initiates were taught to become aware of this invisible commerce. They observed how presence, attention, and emotional bandwidth functioned as currency. Every interaction, whether in speech, thought, or shared space, was an exchange, and not all exchanges enriched. Some left the initiate dimmer, thinner in force. The discipline was to recognize and seal these leaks before the reservoir ran dry. The technique of auric closure, one of the practical exercises, involved beginning and ending the day with a conscious sealing of the aura. Standing in stillness, the initiate would visualize the body surrounded by an oval of radiant light, often golden or rose-tinted. The colors associated with higher vibratory states in Rosicrucian symbolism. With slow, deliberate breaths, the light was imagined expanding outward, pushing away intrusive vibrations, and then contracting slightly to a firm, resilient boundary. While the image held, a verbal or mental affirmation was made, such as, "I radiate life force to the worthy and preserve my essence from the unworthy." This was not born from contempt for others, but from the recognition that energy given without discrimination diminishes the power to serve where it is truly needed. The silent withdrawal. Another Rosicrucian safeguard was withdrawal without explanation. In a culture obsessed with availability, stepping back quietly from draining conversations or environments is a radical act. The initiate learned to trust that preserving energy was not selfishness, but stewardship. Just as a lamp must be refilled with oil to continue giving light, so too must the human aura be replenished in silence before it can radiate again. Filtering incoming currents. Energy conservation was not only about preventing loss, but also about filtering what entered the field. Before engaging in any exchange, whether an intimate conversation, a negotiation, or even reading a piece of writing, the initiate would pause briefly to sense the tone of the encounter. This pause acted as a subtle test. Did the energy uplift or diminish? Was it aligned with the initiate's purpose? Over time, this discernment became second nature, allowing the aura to admit only that which strengthened its frequency. The Rosicrucians likened the aura to a temple. A temple with open gates admits pilgrims and vandals alike. A guarded temple admits only the worthy. This guarding was not done with fear, but with a calm recognition of the sacredness of one's own life force. By sealing the aura, the initiate not only protected their vibration from erosion, but also created a stable foundation for the deeper spiritual work ahead. When the aura is intact, the initiate moves through the world without scattering themselves into every demand. Energy gathers inward, amplifying, and the vibration rises naturally, like a reservoir filling until it overflows in service, creativity, and illumination. In the Rosicrucian tradition, speech is not mere communication, it is creation. Every word carries a vibration, and every vibration shapes form. The initiate is taught that the tongue is both a pen and a wand, inscribing patterns into the invisible substance from which reality condenses. Ancient initiates did not use this principle only in ceremony. It was a daily discipline. The Rosicrucian motto, Ordo ab chao, order from chaos, was not just a political or philosophical idea. It referred to the power of ordered, intentional speech to bring harmony to the formless, the physics of sound and spirit. Modern physics hints at what the ancients knew. Sound is vibration, and vibration organizes matter. Just as a tuning fork can cause another at the same pitch to resonate across space, so can words, charged with emotion and intent, cause corresponding conditions to arise in the field of life. Rosicrucian teachers warned that scattered, contradictory speech dilutes the force of creation. To ask for abundance while speaking of lack, to invoke love while complaining about people, is to send mixed frequencies into the creative medium. The result is static, not music. The law of coherent speech becomes truly powerful when thought, feeling, and word are coherent, aligned in tone and direction. In the lodges, neophytes practiced harmonic utterance, choosing a single phrase that embodied a desired quality. Peace surrounds me, the light of wisdom guides my path, and repeating it in a state of deep emotional resonance. This was not mechanical chanting, but an act of charging the phrase with the full voltage of belief. Over time, the phrase became a vibrational seed planted in the subconscious, which then broadcasted continuously into the universal field. Vocal rituals for elevation. One Rosicrucian technique involved toning sacred syllables, vowels believed to correspond to elemental and planetary forces. For example, a long, resonant ah was associated with the heart and the element of air, while a deep o was linked to grounding and the earth element. These tones were not sung for entertainment, but for calibration. The vibration traveled through the body, aligning energy centers and clearing the auric field. The spoken word became both a key and a tuning fork, the discipline of silence. Paradoxically, the Rosicrucians considered silence an equal partner to sacred speech. They understood that words lose potency when scattered carelessly. The adept learns to speak only when inner alignment is present. Otherwise, silence preserves the stored charge for when it is needed most. This mirrors the esoteric warning: do not cast pearls before swine, not from elitism, but from the recognition that sacred energy must be protected from distortion. Speech as service. At its highest level, harmonic speech is not self-serving, but world-serving. A Rosicrucian who speaks a blessing over another, who offers words that lift despair, is engaging in vibrational alchemy. Every utterance leaves an imprint in the collective field. The initiate becomes mindful that their voice is not only their own, but a current in the greater harmony of humanity. Through this discipline, speech ceases to be random noise and becomes a precise instrument, capable of calling forth healing, clarity, and transformation. The Rosicrucian path insists, if your words are to shape the outer world, they must first be shaped within you, harmonized with your highest vibration. Rosicrucian mystics understood that we live immersed in an unseen medium, a subtle field that saturates the atmosphere and connects every living being. They called it by many names: Spiritus Mundi, the breath of God, the astral light. Today, science touches its edges in the study of electromagnetism, quantum fields, and bioenergetics. But for the initiate, this invisible ocean is not theory. It is the very substance in which spiritual work is done, the living atmosphere. This field is not empty space. It is charged with solar intelligence, patterned by cosmic law, and responsive to human thought and emotion. Ancient Rosicrucians, inheriting knowledge from Egyptian and Hermetic sources, knew that the air we breathe is not merely oxygen and nitrogen. It is a carrier of vibratory currents, a fluidic sea into which we constantly send and from which we constantly receive. Structures such as temples and sacred groves were arranged not only for symbolic meaning, but to capture and amplify these currents. The initiate was trained to become just as intentional with their own body and aura, treating them as living temples for the circulation of this subtle force. Tuning the human antenna, the human energy field, functions like an antenna. Thoughts generate vibrations, emotions tint them with color. The aura broadcasts them into the surrounding medium. Likewise, the field impresses itself back upon us, shaping our moods, vitality, and even the clarity of our thoughts. The Rosicrucian method for tuning this antenna involved a triad of practices: breathwork, slow rhythmic breathing synchronized with visualization, drawing in the surrounding life force on the inhale and radiating it in purified form on the exhale; postural alignment, standing or sitting in ways that allow unobstructed flow of this current through the spinal column, often accompanied by mental imagery of light streaming vertically through the body; mental coherence, holding a single noble thought without distraction, so the outgoing signal is unified rather than fragmented; the moral dimension of energy. Rosicrucians emphasized that this energy is not morally neutral. It reflects and amplifies the intention of the one who wields it. Chaotic or malicious thoughts create turbulence in the field, which rebounds upon the sender. Harmonious, loving thoughts align the currents into patterns that nourish both self and others. In this sense, alignment is as much an ethical discipline as a technical one. The initiate cleanses the inner world of resentment, fear, and discord, not merely for personal peace, but to keep their signal pure in the invisible ocean. Harmonic interaction. When two or more initiates gathered with shared intent, their auras merged into a single, more powerful broadcast, what Rosicrucian texts sometimes called an egregore. This collective field was capable of influencing events, healing, and catalyzing inspiration far beyond what any one individual could achieve. The principle remains true today. The company you keep affects your tuning. Prolonged contact with discordant energies will disrupt your resonance, while alignment with those of higher vibration will elevate it. From control to cooperation, energy mastery is not about dominating this field, but cooperating with it. The Rosicrucian does not force currents into unnatural patterns. Instead, they learn to sense the existing flows and merge with them, like a skilled sailor using the wind to cross an ocean. This cooperation creates an effortless lift, carrying the initiate toward their purpose without the exhausting friction of resistance. By aligning with the invisible ocean, the initiate steps into a continuous exchange with the living atmosphere, drawing in nourishment, sending out blessing. Over time, this relationship becomes second nature, and the very air feels alive, responsive, and holy. At the heart of Rosicrucian practice lies a truth both ancient and radical. Thought is not a private echo within the skull. It is a formative current radiating into the subtle substance of the universe, shaping the contours of reality. This principle, hidden in allegory and symbol for centuries, is the key to what the order called mental projection, the blueprint of reality. Just as an architect's drawing directs the construction of a building, the steady image held in the mind directs the condensation of events. The Rosicrucians taught that the invisible substance of life is intelligent and responsive. It pours itself into whatever mold of thought is most consistently and vividly impressed upon it. The universe does not question the worth of the mold. It obeys its form. To work this law, the initiate learns to craft mental images with precision and stability. Wavering thoughts and conflicting desires create blurred molds. The resulting manifestations are equally muddled. The task is to hold the chosen image, not with anxious effort, which repels, but with calm certainty, like a lantern projecting a steady beam. The mechanics of projection, clarity of image. The vision must be specific enough to evoke sensory and emotional engagement, yet free of unnecessary detail that binds the outcome too tightly. Emotional charge. Emotion is the electric current that animates the image. Joy, gratitude, and certainty amplify the projection's magnetic pull. Consistency. The image must be revisited regularly without counteracting it through contradictory thoughts or speech. In lodge training, initiates practiced mental projection through structured meditations. A typical exercise might involve envisioning a rose in perfect bloom, each petal flawless, each curve alive with color, until the inner image felt more real than the outer world. Only then would the exercise be extended to desired life conditions, ensuring that the mind had learned steadiness before attempting greater creative acts. The sovereign mind, Rosicrucian philosophy, insists that mastery of mental projection requires sovereignty over the mind itself. Most people, the teachings say, are thought by the world, their mental patterns shaped by social suggestion, fear, and habit. The initiate reverses this by reclaiming the seat of inner rulership. From this position, thoughts become chosen tools, not accidental emissions. The sovereign mind does not allow idle complaint, fear-laden imagining, or the repetition of others' limiting beliefs. For each of these is a projection with real consequences in the invisible ocean. Guarding the projection. Even a well-formed image can be weakened by doubt. Flickering belief is like an unsteady light. It distorts the projection. For this reason, Rosicrucians coupled mental projection with daily practices of affirmation and visualization, often performed in the early morning or just before sleep, when the subconscious mind is most receptive. The adept understands that the world is not simply out there, acting upon them. It is a mirror, an echo, a condensation of inner states. By refining the content of thought, the initiate refines the substance of life itself. This is not fantasy. It is the conscious wielding of a universal law, one that operates whether acknowledged or not. Through mental projection, the Rosicrucian transforms from a passive observer of life into an active architect of destiny. And as their vibration rises, their projections grow clearer, purer, and more attuned to the harmony of the greater whole. To the uninitiated, these techniques may seem like separate practices: non-chasing, sealing the aura, harmonic speech, energy alignment, and mental projection. But in the Rosicrucian current, they form a single spiral path, each turning lifting the initiate higher into coherence with the universal order. The backwards law teaches surrender and embodiment, clearing the static of desperate grasping. Sealing Healing the aura conserves the vital force needed for spiritual ascent. Harmonic speech tunes the voice into a resonant instrument of creation. Alignment with the invisible ocean attunes the whole being to the living currents that permeate reality. And mental projection focuses this gathered energy into precise creation, ensuring that what is sent into the world returns in beauty and harmony. Together, these arts reveal the Rosicrucian truth. Vibration is not something you raise like a weight. It is something you uncover, polish, and refine until it rings clear as it did in the soul's first light. To awaken the spirit is not to become something other than yourself. It is to remember what you already are, a luminous center in the infinite field, a sovereign spark of the great flame. In the silence between breaths, in the stillness behind thought, you are already there. The rose blooms, the cross stands, and the path is open. Step upon it, and the vibration will rise of its own accord.